Live with CDP Sports Talk, a weekly sports and entertainment podcast sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet. Live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn. And on audio via Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Anchor FM, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Radio Public, and TuneIn. Now, here's your host, Chris Palme.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Season 12, Episode 18, overall 623 of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership, located at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Automall. Check out their website, barrycullen.com, for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, along with their great selection of all-electric vehicles and Cadillac vehicles as well. You can call the dealership, 519-824-0210. That's 519-824-0210. Tom Chris Palme sent you. And you can email the dealership at info@barrycullen.com. Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership has been family run and operated here in the city of Guelph for the past 1969. So that would be 56 years, which is hard to believe. I am hoping everyone is doing well on this Wednesday, November 26, 2025. And we're supposed to be getting more snow here, but hey, spring training is not that far away. It's only another 2.5 months away. And I'm looking forward to my guest tonight. He's a friend of mine, friend of the show's, and I met him at the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame a couple years ago in St. Mary's, Ontario. And he's got one of the biggest Blue Jays memorabilia collections in the world. I think he's up to almost 1,400 items now, or 14,000 items, pardon me. And we're going to bring him on in 1 minute. His name is Paul Bychko. And I just want to do one of these little things here on StreamYard for him as well. That's for the ultimate Blue Jays collector. Thank you, Paul. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. I'm good, Chris. How are you?
Not too bad. And I want to say thank you so much for coming on for a second time. And that was quite the playoff run in World Series this year.
You know what? It was an amazing extra month of baseball. And I think, honestly, 2025 was the best baseball I've ever seen ever since, watching them when I was about 5-6 years old. So, and that's saying a lot. So it was truly an experience to see the games live, some of the games live, and to watch it unfold on TV in front of me, especially, with how the season's started out back in April and May, being at about 500 for those 2 months, and then totally breaking out and then getting all the way to Game 7 of the World Series. So it was something. Yeah.
We have somebody watching. I'm not sure if he's still watching or not, but Jesse Barfield, who's one of the greatest old-time Blue Jays outfielders. And to me, the two best defensive outfielders they've had in right field, Barfield and Jose Bautista, in my opinion. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. I love Jesse. He was one of my favorites growing up. I tried to emulate his stance whenever I'd play baseball. And yeah, he was very, I remember him being, watching the interviews on Blue Jays Banter and all those shows like that. And he was very soft-spoken, and you could tell he was a genuinely nice guy. And I really enjoyed watching him play. It was very, it was like a kick in the face when he got traded to the Yankees for Al Leiter back in '89. And I was just like, oh, that was like, kind of breaking apart part of my childhood, even though at the time I was only 9, but it was pretty devastating for me.
Hey, Paul, you're a lifetime Blue Jays fan. Did you see this coming where this team was going to win 94 games, win the AL East, and then beat the Yankees in 4, come back 3-2 against Seattle, and then pretty well outplayed the Dodgers in that 7-game series? And by the way, people in LA get mad when I say it was an 8-game series, because really, with those 2 games that went to extra innings, it was really an 8-game series.
Well, you know what? Like, I remember watching the spring training games on TV, and my expectations were kind of like I wanted to see two things. I wanted to see Jimenez play at second base or and at shortstop, or anything in the middle infield, to be honest, because he had great hands with the Guardians, and I wanted to see Bowden Francis pitch because of his, the year before he had those near no hitters in August, and those were my two goals. That's what I wanted to see, and unfortunately, Francis got injured and Jimenez was injured for a little bit. And I know that Scherzer was injured for a bit with his hand, and Santander, got injured. So all the new acquisitions seemingly weren't around for, a little bit in the season. They were kind of at different times. So honestly, when the Jays started picking up steam, around that Canada Day weekend, and they swept the Yankees in 4, and then they just kept it going, and it was really eye-opening because we're like, I'm looking and I'm watching these games, and I'm like, man, they're pretty well put together. Like, they know exactly what they're doing, and it's funny because one of the things that it didn't really dawn on me at the time, but when they played Colorado in that series in Colorado, and I think they set a record for how many runs and how many hits they got in the 3-game series. At the time, I was just kind of like, well, Colorado doesn't have the greatest team, so anybody could do that. But I was kind of like, after looking back, I was just kind of like, no, that kind of showed how good they were at that point to score that many runs and get that many hits. And they were just lights out. Like, it was kind of ridiculous. So when they hit September and we're playing that dynamite baseball in September, to keep ahead of the Yankees there, it was for the first time, I think I went down on my birthday to watch them play the Orioles on the 13th of September, and I remember thinking, wow, they're going to go far, because they kept on doing the comeback wins. Seemingly, no matter how many runs they were down, they'd be coming back. It's like nothing can hold them down. And, when they got to the point where they got past the Yankees in the ALDS, and then they squeaked by the Mariners in the ALCS, it was one of those things where it's just like, you know what? If I were the Dodgers, at the time, I was just like, if I were the Dodgers, I would be scared to death, because they had a lot of momentum going into that series. And honestly, if you look at the the side by side, the data and like the comparisons of all of the the batting averages and the pitching and everything like that, and the bullpen, and we outplayed them. And honestly, they've said it before, like, Caleb Joseph and Scherzer said it, like the baseball gods got it wrong, and I truly believe that. Like, they were the better team, and it's unfortunately, and went how it went. What are you going to do? But it was one of those things where they should have won the World Series. And I'm not really going to get into the whole, baseball getting stuck in the bottom of the Rogers Center wall there. But if that doesn't happen, the Blue Jays are World Series champions.
Paul, I got to ask you this. I've seen the Blue Jays play since '77. I've been to a lot of games at Exhibition Stadium and the Rogers Center Skydome. I've never seen a baseball at either stadium get stuck in the wall like that. And I wanted to ask you your thoughts on that, and who has that baseball right now? Is it Cooper's? Is that baseball is really historical, because that changed the series between the Dodgers and the Blue Jays. I want to know who has that baseball right now physically.
Yeah, that was like a 1 in a million shot. The odds of that happening are like, they're so low, and the fact that it happened in such a pivotal moment in the series, like, it was shocking is the right word. And it's again unfortunate that it had to happen that way, because I feel, like I said, they won that game if that ball doesn't get lodged. And I'm assuming that if the Blue Jays don't have it in their possession, that they might auction it off, or maybe they'll do something, like on the Authentics or like the MLB auctions or something like that, and get some pretty good money for that. But I agree, that's a pretty important baseball in the, not only in Blue Jays history, but the history of the game, because, like, to my recollection, I've never seen a World Series quite like the one that we just watched. And back, with the back and forth, and you're hanging on every pitch, and it was dynamite baseball. And it was one of the best series, if not the best series, World Series I've ever seen.
By the way, we have some Blue Jays news today. Paul, would you like to share it with our audience?
Yeah, the Blue Jays, if you didn't know, the Blue Jays signed San Diego Padres pitcher Dylan Cease to a 7-year, $210 million contract. He was one of the bigger arms on the market. I'm glad they locked down a guy that his strikeout rate is ridiculous. A guy like that could go, great, back to back, with a Savage. I'm happy with the move. I'm just obviously hoping that they're not done, and that we could hopefully get Bo back, possibly Kyle Tucker, and knock on wood, hopefully get Diaz from the Mets. But it's just how much money you're going to spend, right? And I heard a rumor actually earlier today about the Blue Jays being interested in was it Ketel Marte with the Diamondbacks, but I think obviously he's not a free agent, but I think if they got him a trade, in a trade, they'd be selling a lot of the farm, and I'd rather buy Bo back than to get rid of the dynamic that they have right now.
Hey, Paul, with the signing of Dylan Cease today, I can't see them bringing back 41-year-old Max Scherzer. I just can't see him coming back now.
Yeah, you know what? Like, I'd love to see Mad Max back. If they don't have Mad Max, as Mad Max, because his pitching performance in the ALCS and in the World Series, it was ridiculous. Like, he totally pulled a 180. And he pitched, some of the best ball games I've seen in a long time from him. And it's funny because I just saw there's a clip that I was seeing on TikTok. He did an interview, and he's still referring to him, him and the team as we, which is a good sign because it sounds like he wants to come back, or at least he thinks he's still part of the team, which is nice. But yes, I agree. He is, he's up in age, but he can still throw. And if you could use him, in pivotal situations like they did in the world, in the playoffs and the World Series, I think he'll do a great job. And I honestly think that that layoff though that he had in September, where I think there was a stretch where he didn't pitch over 2 weeks or a good 20 days or something like that, I think that really helped him, with his performance in the playoff though. And obviously they can't afford something like that during the regular season, but his experience in the playoff alone is something that the Blue Jays need to have on this team, right? So, I don't know. It's going to be hard to say, but it just kind of depends on, what direction the Blue Jays want to go, and I think they want to get there again. It's just is Scherzer going to be part of that equation?
Yeah, and it's a business too. You can't always, unfortunately, keep everybody. Gotta ask you this, Paul. Ask you this. The Blue Jays won the World Series 92-93, and then there was a big drop-off in 94-95. Do you feel this team has a shot to have long-term success? After the 92-93 team, obviously were a dynasty, and they were great, but they were more of a veteran club. Do you feel that this youth can continue to compete for a World Series for the next couple of years in the American League?
Yeah, I think so. Like in the 92-93, like you said, there are a lot of veterans. Or they had, in 92 they had Winnie and Winfield, and they had Molitor in 93. And they were like an older team. But unfortunately, that strike happened in 94, and it kind of killed a lot of baseball for a few years. And, the Blue Jays really couldn't put anything together after that for a long time. No. And, having said that, when you look at this team, they're really built differently from the 92-93 team, and even the 2015-2016 team. And I love the 2015-2016 teams, like obviously Donaldson, Encarnacion, and Bautista. But I think 1 through 9 in the Blue Jays lineup that they have right now, and seemingly for next year, you can't get much better than that. I've never had so much faith in the bottom of a lineup like I did with the Blue Jays this year. You knew that they could attack you at any given time, whether it be, Springer leading off of the home run, Kirky in the middle, hitting bombs and hitting the ball regularly, or even, Straw or Jimenez at the, 8 and 9. Anybody could go in at any time and make a difference. And that's what you saw. And especially, like, I talk about Jimenez. You don't have Jimenez's 2 different home runs that he hit against the Seattle Mariners, and it was games 3 and 4 in Seattle. They're not getting to the World Series. He was the starter. He was the igniter. And so it's plays like that I think of when, you think of their lineup, and it's just like, man, they could get at you at any time. And I honestly think they have the youth on their side and the longevity, and I think they figured out a lot of things this year, especially where you had perfect players that could complement each other very well and pull out at any given time and sub anybody at any given time, and it would pick them up again. And I think they've kind of uncracked a formula that really works, and I think that I think the teams are going to try to replicate, and even too with their pitching. But I think they're going to be very good over the next, 3, 4, 5 years, definitely.
I'm a Tigers fan, and I really thought we should have beat Seattle. But I admit, if I wanted to see the Tigers in the Jays in the ALCS. But I don't think the Tigers would have had the bats to win that series in a 7-game series. That's the difference between the Jays and the Tigers right now. The Tigers have good pitching, good defense. They have a great manager. They just don't have the pop. They have Torkelson and Riley Green, but you guys can hit from 1 to 9, and I think the only other team in baseball that can do that is the Dodgers, and even the Dodgers didn't hit 1 to 9 in that series as well. Hey, Paul, we got to talk about this too. Mm-hmm. Blue Jays fans for the last 10 years, fire Shapiro, fire Atkins, fire Schneider. That this season should silence all that, and I'm assuming Rogers' ownership is going to give Shapiro and Atkins a long-term contract along with John Schneider, the manager. The players seem to love him.
Yeah, you know what? I could see that. Obviously with anything that's different, obviously a lot of the fan base, they kind of go against you. And especially if they know that, like I know with Alex Anthopoulos and in that, regime back then, they were the big thing. You used Canadian and they had everybody on their side. And then, they got, rid of him. And then, then along came Shapiro and Atkins, and they were Cleveland boys, right? So when you see something like that kind of coming, you're kind of like, you're looking at them, you're like, who are you guys? You know what I mean? Type thing. However, I think they just needed some time to kind of, figure things out. And they did a lot for this team to kind of, build the farm and do all these renos to Rogers Center and kind of put the team on the field that they did. I don't think they expected it to turn out like how it did this year. I don't think anybody did. However, though, it just goes to show you when you're putting, the right players together at the right time, anything can happen. And that's exactly what happened here. So I'm thinking that the Blue Jays ownership, like Rogers, I think they have confidence in what they see in front of them. And, and even with John Schneider, I think he's a great manager. Obviously sometimes, he's made a couple questionable moves in the past. They all do, though. It's not just, it's not just a one-off type thing. It just, it happens. You know what I mean? And I could see them extending him as well. And I know that Schneider, he's been with a lot of those players growing up with them in the
down
system,
in the minor leagues.
Yeah, in the minor leagues. Like he was their manager, in New Hampshire, I believe. And he's been with the organization, I think he said, for over 20 years. So I think he's a good fit, and I think they have confidence in him, and I'd bring him back. I have no problems with John Schneider being their manager at all. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
And teams that are successful long term, they have stability. Look at the Dodgers and Dave Roberts. And to me, Dave Roberts, I thought managed the World Series as good as he's ever has, because a lot of his moves at the end really paid off. So I think to have long-term stability with ownership, your GM and manager, I think that's the right way to go. And winning cures everything, Paul. I'm not sure if you're a basketball fan. I'm a fan of the Detroit Pistons. They've been horrible for the last 15 years, and everybody wanted Tom Gores, their owner, to sell the franchise. Now the
Mm,
Pistons are 15-2. They've won 13 in a row.
mm,
Nobody hears that. Winning really kind of silences the fan base, especially with the Pistons and now with the Blue Jays. And I do feel they are set up for long-term success. And I want to mention this to you, Paul. Doing some freelance media coverage for the Bisons the last few years, I got to know some of these guys and talk to them down in Buffalo. A lot of these guys, besides being talented, are really good baseball players. And you got to give the Buffalo Bisons
mm.
AAA organization a lot of credit. Casey Candell, who should be a Major League Baseball
Yeah,
manager,
yeah.
but he seems to love being in the minors and teaching these guys. I think the Buffalo Bisons, and obviously the AA and the single A teams should get credit too, but the Buffalo Bisons have really done a really good job the last couple of years, because there are some guys on the Bisons team that I didn't think would be up in the major leagues, like Ernie Clement and
Yeah,
Addison
Lucas.
Barger. No disrespect, but
Yeah.
they really learned how to play the game from Casey Candell.
Yeah, and a lot of those guys, even Nathan Lucas, I'm glad that the Blue Jays gave him the opportunity at the major league level, though, to kind of prove themselves and stay with the club. You know what I mean? And I agree. Like, they did a hell of a job in the farm system with these guys, and I think when I look at back at the season, I see that these guys really genuinely liked each other, and when you're
Yep.
happy, you're playing well and you're hitting. If you're not happy, it's like I think a lot of the fan base has to understand that if you're not a happy player, you're not hitting well, and you're going to be in a mental funk where nothing's going to go right. But this team proved that because they gelled so well and they got along with each other so well and they played so well together as a team, that it just brought out the best in everybody, and they were happily playing. You have a lot of teams that, they're playing for themselves, and it's like an independent thing. You have a lot of just like individual players, and they're not playing as a team. And that team is never going to gel, whether it be ego or whatever like that. But so much of the game is mental. And you could even see that with Vlad Jr. especially too. When he's in a funk, he's in a funk. And when he's in a funk, he's not hitting. And when he's happy, and you saw him, over the last, season, he signed his contract and he was gelling well with everybody and he was happily hitting. And even in the playoffs, he turned it up that notch and he was doing very, very well. And so, like I said, I think a lot of it has to do with like how mentally happy and how everybody is kind of playing together as a team that's going to produce the runs that you see on the field. And the result that we got was, almost a World Series championship. So I just hope that, like I said before, they can keep it all together and, put together a good team again in 2026. So.
Paul, what are your thoughts on the departure of Don Mattingly after 3 years? And do you see Don Mattingly getting another chance to manage a Major League Baseball team?
When I heard that Mattingly was, leaving, I thought it was weird that it was so soon after the World Series ended. I thought if anybody was going to leave, I thought they at least give it a couple of weeks or at least a month or something like that. But so that was a little bit surprising. However, I saw an interview with him after, and he said pretty much he made up his mind before the season started that he was going to leave, which is good. But it leads me to believe, though, and this is just my thought. It doesn't have anything to do with, anything, because I don't know. But I think that he might have gotten wind that there might be an opening somewhere in terms of, a managerial position or something like that. And I think that's what he really wants. And I think that's why he left. Or else I think he would have stayed. I think if you're going to see him again, he's going to be a major league manager. And I think that's his main goal again. Yeah.
By the way, this is my opinion, but besides sweet Lou Whitaker, I think Don Mattingly should be in the Baseball Hall of Fame too. They're like, oh,
Oh,
his career
definitely.
wasn't long enough, but you know what? He was dominant. He was consistent. He was great defensively. He knew how to hit. And to me, sweet Lou Whitaker and Don Mattingly should be in the Baseball Hall of Fame, in my opinion.
Yeah, you know what? There's so many guys that got overlooked and that should be in the hall that it's unfortunate, that you have to play a bit of a game and there's a lot of politics involved and things like that, stuff that we don't see.
Yep.
And like, obviously with the Blue Jays, I'm thinking, Tony Fernandez should have been in the hall, or at least considered a lot more than he was. Even guys like Dave,
Defensively,
yeah,
yeah,
even guys like Dave Stieb, he was one of, if not the best pitcher of the 1980s,
80s.
and in his percentage of votes that he got in was like laughable. You know what I mean? Like, to even be considered. So it's things like that where you can't help but think that other factors are at play. And I think, not to talk about, Mattingly and Whitaker, but I think with anything like related to the Blue Jays, I think it's that negative connotation that it's related somehow to playing in Canada. And a lot of the people that vote these players in didn't watch a lot of Canadian baseball when they should have been paying attention to a lot of these players. And as a result, they get kind of overlooked hard, unfortunately, and don't get really many votes at all.
It's like with Lou Whitaker. If Lou Whitaker played for the Yankees or the Red
Definitely.
Sox or the
Yep.
Cubs or Dodgers, he would have been in the Hall of Fame 10 years ago. But because he played in Detroit, which is a mid-market franchise, and Lou wasn't very talkative with the media, I think that's what's keeping him out. And by the way, if anyone from the Toronto Blue Jays is watching this, please retire Dave Steve's 37 and Tony Fernandez is number 1. Dave Steve, no offense to Roy Halladay, the late Roy Halladay, but Dave Steve to me is still the greatest pitcher in Jays history. Retires 37, and Tony Fernandez is a legend as well. He's one of the greatest hitters and defensive players. Retire number 1. I'm not saying go like the Yankees or the Celtics and retire 60, 70 numbers, but there's certain athletes that should be retired. And since we're talking about the Jays' level of excellency, Jerry Howarth, put him on there. Even if he doesn't really like the attention, he should be there right beside Tom Cheek's name in the Rogers Center.
Well, and that's the thing, eh? Like, when you think about guys that get overlooked, and again, there's almost like a game you have to play, right? And the politics involved. But I agree. Like, when you have other players wearing the numbers of, like you see the 37 on other players and, not Dave Steve. And it's just kind of like, yeah, I don't know if you should be wearing that number, you know what I mean? Or even the number 1, and it sucks because you like them to get more, recognized for how they did back in the day, and they didn't. And
there's not enough history there. Like, I know they did renovations to the Skydome or the Rogers Center. They were great, but you go to ballparks in the States, you see Cincinnati Reds Hall of Fame, you see statues, and all you see at the Rogers Center is a statue of the late Ted Rogers. That's it. I would like to see some statues of some of the greatest moments. Joe Carter, Roberto Alomar. I know Alomar is on the outs with the Jays, but whatever Alomar did outside the Blue Jays in Major League Baseball, if I don't want to get into the politics side of it, but you can't just ghost him. You can't forget he's one of the greatest players of all time. And I'm hoping one day they recognize Alomar's contributions to the Toronto Blue Jays.
Well, yeah, and I think it's one of those things where, there's so much negative with that name still because it kind of just happened a couple years ago. But like, it's one of those things where I hope that he could kind of come back in the good graces of the club. But that's a tricky one, like seemingly they, and then that's any team though, they want to distance themselves from negativity. And or they try to not mention that name or like related to what they did, and it's just some of these players get themselves into hot water and there's like there's no coming back, right? And with Robbie it was just like you wish some stuff And the thing is, I don't even know what the result was of what happened with him, but
No,
it's just too bad that it went the way it did. Because, like you said, he was a hell of a player, and
yeah.
he was, I think at one point he was voted the best Blue Jay of all time. And now it's kind of like,
To me, he's the most talented.
oh
He's
yeah,
the
no,
most
for
talented
sure.
as far as
Now
I'm
it's just
concerned.
like they can't even mention his name, right? So it's kind of a, yeah, it's too bad. It's really too bad.
Paul, I know the Blue Jays going on 50 years. I want to get your perspective, Paul. The 1985 ALCS, they were up 3-1 and they lost in 7, and they had games 6 and 7 at Exhibition Stadium. 1987, they were up on the Tigers 4.5 games, and then they lost 7 in a row and lost the AL East the last day.
Yeah.
The 2025 World Series, out of all 3 of these, where do you rank them 1, 2, 3 in devastating, crushing losses?
Ooh. Up until the 2025 World Series, I'd say the most crushing for me personally, I don't know about the club, but it was the 87, kind of the whole meltdown at the end. Because, man, they were such a good team, and they had everybody in place, and they just went through such a bad spell at the end. And I think that was the team back then that could have brought them all the way, obviously before the 92 World Series. But see, the thing with the 2025 World Series, though, is that I'm not really that bitter about what had happened. Like, it was such great baseball to watch. And yeah, they fell short, but again, they were the better team. So I'm not seeing it as such a crushing loss as, like the others, because in my mind, they're everything that everybody thought about this team was totally disproven. And they brought it. And it was one of those things that you loved to watch them play. And everybody's expectations were, it went through the roof. And I don't see this as a crushing loss. I see them as getting the best out of the best team in the league. And as far as I'm concerned, and I think a lot of the Canadian baseball fans will agree that technically they did win the World Series. It just, they didn't get the trophy. They didn't get the trophy for it. But if I had to rank them, I'd say this would be third, because again, I'm not broken apart about it, because like I said at the beginning, I got to watch a full month of extra beautiful baseball. And so, like, if I had to rank them, I'd go the 87, 85, and then the 2025. But they just I'm so excited to see them play again next year. It's insane. And yeah, they put together something I've never seen before. So, and it's funny you mentioned the 85 and the 87. You probably can't see it, but behind me I have the banners kind of left. Yeah. But if you'll notice, there's an 85 and an 87 World Series champs banner that technically
87.
Right, I put that up there just because in my mind they should have won. In 85,
the Tigers
should have won, right? But
I talked to Jerry Howarth about this, and I said, Jerry, even if the Jays had beaten the Tigers and won in 87, I think they would have ran out of gas like the Jays or the Tigers did. And Jerry tended to agree with me. I said the Jays Tigers 87 last week, that was the real ALCS.
Oh,
and I really think I think the Twins just took advantage of the Tigers team that was emotionally spent from playing that series against Charles. 7 one-run games.
Well, see, the only thing that makes me think that the Blue Jays would have went all the way was that I think that year, I think the Blue Jays record against the Twins was very good. I think they had them that year. They had their number.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. It would have been interesting to see how far they would have got if there wasn't that big collapse, but shoulda, coulda, woulda, right? But again, at the same time, a lot, freak things happened, that season too at the end, right? Witt got the rib injury and Fernandez broke his arm.
Broke his elbow. Yep.
Yeah. So, it's too bad. It's too bad, but yeah, that's baseball, right?
Yeah. Hey, there's no guarantees in baseball as well. Want to get your thoughts on the Dodgers pitcher Yokomoto. what
Oh,
he
yeah.
did. Like, that's old school baseball. That's what Jack Morris and Dave Stieb and Oral Hershiser would have done. That just shows you that these guys can do it. He put it on the line. Whether you don't like the Dodgers or not, what he did was special. And
Well,
I wonder if that's going to change how guys use their starters in the future now.
I think the World Series showed that a lot of things that happen in baseball that are normally done are probably going to change. A lot of they did a lot of new things, this year or this last playoffs. But with Yamamoto, this is what I'm going to say. If they don't have him, like, Roberts relied on him. If you don't have him, they weren't doing anything, and that was, I think, the only player that they knew they had that had the Blue Jays number, and they kept on having to go to him because they had nothing else, and obviously it worked because the Blue Jays couldn't hit him, but they also thought about Ohtani like that, and Ohtani. Like, he did some hitting, whatever, he
Yep.
hit, that one, I know the 18 inning games, they really couldn't get him out. So they kept on walking him. But
9
outside
times he
of
got on
that,
base.
like,
Yeah.
but outside of that, like, they were hitting him pretty well and they were, putting him out pretty good. You know what I mean? Like, even, you Savage, when you think about the, the strikeout he had against him and things like that. But they had his number too, which is not an easy thing to do, because he's, arguably the best player in the game right now. I don't think so, but a lot of people do. But yeah, with Yamamoto, I think that Roberts knew he was the only guy he could count on, so he just kept on using him, and it worked. And I think that's pretty much it.
And their clutch guys came through for them, like Max Muncy. He came through with a big home run.
Yeah.
Will Smith came through with a couple home runs in the series. And the one guy, Mookie, what is it? Rojas.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, he came through with a big hit too. So
Yeah.
I don't think the Dodgers, I can't say this for the Dodgers, but I don't think having that week off helped them either, because sometimes sweeping a series in 4 games, and I also don't think they really knew how good this Blue Jays team was as well. So I think it was a combination of both factors, but
Yep.
I think this was one of the best World Series I've seen in a long time, and it's a shame that one team had to lose it. And
Oh, yeah.
and then the thing is too, the Dodgers made a couple more plays, like, and then they're blaming IFP for that when he got out. But you know what? He did what the third base coach told him, to stay by the bag and not get
Right.
doubled off. And
yeah, a lot of people were pointing, the finger at different things, but
yeah,
what are you going to do? You know what I mean? I think they were scarred from the game before when Barger got picked off, right? So
Yep.
you don't want something like that to happen again. But to your point about having, that long stretch off for the Dodgers, like, that's kind of the boat that the Blue Jays were in too, right? Because they had, a couple days off, but it actually worked to their advantage because they got to heal up. They were pretty banged up, and they were banged up when they went into every single postseason series. But I think some of that time off in between really got to help them. And I don't think originally going in, I'm like, they have a week off, before the ALDS. I don't know if that's going to help them, and I just don't want them to get rusty. But man, Vladdy got things figured out, with his hitting. Scherzer got that time off, and a lot of the pitchers got the rest that they needed, and I think it worked out to their advantage. But like for the, with the Dodgers, what they did, I think it could have been a hindrance, definitely. But again, you don't really know, right? But it's just it's baseball, so you just never know what's going to help you or what's going to harm you at different times, right?
George Springer, does he still have another year left on his contract with the Blue Jays?
I believe he's got another year. With George, I'll tell you, when he hit that home run in Game 7 of the ALCS, that I was there for that, and I never
Tell us about it. Tell us about it.
Yeah, like I wasn't at the Bautista bat flip game. I was at the Encarnacion bat drop game in 2016, and I was at the Donaldson Dash game in 2016 as well. But when Springer hit that home run, that was different. I found, because it got us into the World Series for the first time since '93, but it at the time we thought the game was over because the Mariners to that point had, like held us down pretty well. And so when Springer came up and it was getting to that point of, it's getting late in the game and there's only so many outs left, you started kind of losing hope, even though that's their inning, right? The seventh was the Blue Jays inning, but still you kind of got that feeling. It's just like, can they come back type thing? And I was there with my boys. I originally didn't plan on taking my boys down. I just so happened to have 3 tickets to that game. 2 is I was actually just going to try to sell. But we watched Game 6 here, and we decided to make the trip down, and thinking that obviously Game 7, Blue Jays haven't done that since '85, and it was one of those things where it's like you almost feel like it's Canadian history, not just baseball history, but Canadian history, right? So I'm thinking something's going to happen. We were meant to be there. I had the 3 tickets that we were meant to go. And so, like I said, it was getting farther and farther in the game, and you're slowly losing hope. But, it's the 7th inning, and then they start getting something going, and then Springer comes up. I remember, like, I had my son I was holding him because we had, like I said, we had 3 seats, but the one seat, the last seat, the 3rd seat was in the 500s. It wasn't with us down on the 100s. So my 2 sons had one was beside me and the one I was kind of holding in my lap type thing. And that's not an easy feat because he's 7. It's not like he's 2. And so when Springer hit the home run, I'm holding my son. And I remember watching the ball and I lost it. I lost the ball for a second because the gentleman had obviously stood up. And by the time I saw it again, it had dropped into the first row. And I remember just a wall of just people going insane. And I remember just grabbing the guy next to me's shirt and tugging on it and high five. And meanwhile, in one hand, poor Noah's being brought back and forth like this, being shook around because everybody was going nuts and giving everybody high fives. And I remember everybody in our section was just like in shock because they were like, oh my God, we got the lead. And it was just like nobody could believe what just happened. It was very, very, very surreal. But it was absolutely insane in that state. I've never seen it like that. Like even through, like I said, the Donaldson Dash and the Encarnacion bat drop. I remember like after that and being ridiculously nervous for when Hoffman came out and he had the the lights out, bottom of the 9th or top of the 9th to strike them out to win. But I'd never seen anything like that. And until I attended Game 1, and it was, I believe, was that the one they had the 9-run inning, right? When Barger hit the grand slam?
Yes, I believe so.
That was very similar in terms of atmosphere to the Springer home run. In terms of historic value, it wasn't as obviously, historic, but the crowd level and the amount of pandemonium and the people going nuts was insane. And I remember after that whole inning, and I think Kirky hit a home run too, if I'm not mistaken, after the Barger grand slam. I remember having to go to the bathroom, and literally the bathroom couldn't have been more than 15 feet away from the edge of the section there. It was right around the corner. I couldn't move because there were so many people going nuts and giving my high fives. My hand was like purple. And the atmosphere in there was insane. It's burned into my brain, and it will be forever. And I told my boys, even after that Game 7 home run, I'm like, you just witnessed history and you'll never forget that. And I'm so glad I brought them because I had never seen something like that when I was a kid. You know what I mean? Like when I watched the Blue Jays, when I was a kid growing up in 89, winning the pennant, 91, 92, 93 World Series, I watched it on TV. I never had the luxury of going down and seeing it live, obviously.
It's different live. It's different live.
Totally different, right? So it was one of those things where it's just like, you literally got to see that live, I said to my boys, and yeah, it's something that they'll definitely remember forever. So I'm glad it happened.
Paul, the Jays have had a lot of big home runs in the postseason and stuff like that. Joe Carter's is obviously number one.
Yeah.
To me, Roberto Alomar's home run
Yeah.
in the '92 ALCS against Oakland.
Yep.
Jays had a history of not winning the big games until that home run. To me, that's number two. I would say George Springer's 3-run game-winning American League Championship Series Game 7 home run. I would say it would be third in terms of all-time great Jays postseason home runs.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Definitely. It's definitely up there. Like in the when you think of like the big ones, obviously the big four are going to be Carter, Alomar, Bautista, and Springer, followed by probably Encarnacion's bat drop. But yeah, those are the ones, definitely. Obviously Carter's will probably remain always number one because that won them the World Series, and that's
back to back.
Yeah, back to back, and that's only to walk off a World Series. That's only happened twice ever in World Series history, besides Mazeroski. So, but definitely, between the Alomar and the Springer home run, yeah, that's a damn close one. Yeah.
And by the way, the Dodgers have a great history. The Brooklyn Dodgers, the LA Dodgers. That's the first time in Dodgers team history they've won back-to-back World Series. And they did it against a franchise that did that back-to-back in 92, 93 in Toronto. So there's a lot of history facts in that series. And it's hard to believe the Dodgers, with all their great teams and success over 130 years between being in Brooklyn and LA, that's the first time they've ever won back-to-back World Series.
So much history there. And even too, when you think about, like moments like, like when Springer it was Davis Schneider and Vladdy went back to back to start, was that game 3 or game 4 of the World Series? That's never happened before. You Savage strike out over 10 in the World Series. That's never happened before. So many historic things happened, and it's hard to keep track of. Like even too, like Savage, I think he was one of the youngest besides Ralph Branca to start a World Series game. So a lot of stats like that were pretty cool that you got to see and experience. As it happened. Seemingly every game had something he had never seen before, or a record that was broken, or something happened that was pretty historic, right? So yeah, I don't think there's been a World Series in recent memory that's had something like that,
Paul, do you know by any chance who has that George Springer ball? Because that ball should either be at the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown or the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame in St. Mary's.
Yeah,
that would be a valuable ball, even if
definitely.
It only won the American League pennant. That's still a historical ball.
Yeah, I know. They interviewed the guy that caught it because he was wearing that Springer football jersey. I don't know if they got it back from him or if they are in some sort of negotiation to get it back or whatever like that. But if he gives it up, this can be a very pricey ball if he decides to sell it. Because I know that the Bautista ball, I think, went for like $30,000 or something like that. So yeah, a lot of money there, but a lot of history too, right? And that's just what happens, right? So
what if it was you that caught that ball? What would you do with it?
Well, I don't think I'd feel right keeping it, to be honest with you. I'd probably work out something with the Blue Jays to have it still in the organization, or something with the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame, because again, that's their history, right? And I don't think I'd feel right having something like that. You know what I mean? Like it'd be cool to own, but I don't think. Yeah, I think that would have to belong with the team. Yeah.
Paul, next year, I believe, is the 50th year of Blue Jays baseball, which is hard to believe. Will they do something like celebrate like the players and some of the most historical sites? Because it would be nice to see more a Blue Jays Hall of Fame exhibit at the Rogers Center for the fans.
Oh, for sure. Like, I hope that I think they will, because if you think back about, the 25th anniversary in 2001, they did a lot of things albeit it was a different regime, right? Because, Beeston, I think, was still there, and they still had a lot of I think, Gord Ash was still there, I want to say. And so they had still a lot of, historic people that were still, with the club, running it and bringing back the old people, that, the alumni that would, play for them. And I know a couple times throughout the season, they did promotions where, they had them doing autograph signings, and they did some like moments and things like that. I think they had like a coin set and things like that, showing historic things. I'm hoping so, because the 50th anniversary, that's pretty big, because obviously none of us are probably going to be around for the 75th or the 100th.
No,
right?
no,
So this
no.
is as big as it gets in terms of anniversaries for the club. So, and this is one I've been looking forward to forever. And I think that I think that they'll put something together that's going to be pretty cool, and I think it's going to be throughout the season. And I could see them doing it up to the nines, to be honest with you. I just can't wait, to be honest with you. Like I said, I've been thinking about this forever, and I think it's going to be a great season. Yeah.
Hopefully they do a couple of statues too.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Paul, but if you got a few more minutes, I got a couple more questions I want to ask you.
Yeah,
Can you tell our audience a little bit about your postseason and World Series Blue Jays memorabilia and the items that you picked up?
Yeah, probably spent way too much money, to be honest with you. And the thing is too, with my boys, right, I got them into it too, so it was, times 3. Plus my wife, I got a couple things too. But I got a couple things, like, I get the white panel World Series cap, and
I like that hat. That should be their permanent hat.
Yeah, honestly. Well, it got them a lot of good luck, I'll tell you that much, because it got them through a lot of the postseason, right? So I think it was Hoffman that made the decision for them to bring back the white panel caps. So that was cool. And I got some game used dirt. I got the one from when, actually, this was from when they won the ALCS. I ordered the one from the World Series there, but it still hasn't come in yet. So, because I like stuff like that, like the cool game used, things like that, especially with historic games. I got, like the, quirky stuff like this. I got a little World Series, shot glass. They produced a couple bobbleheads through FOCO, I think it was, that commemorated a couple of the things that happened during the World Series, like Savage's 10 over 10 strikeout game. And I think they did one for the Barger Grand Slam, because it was the first pinch hit Grand Slam Blue Jays or in baseball history. And they did the back-to-back ones with Davis and Vladdy. So I got all those at a pretty penny. So those are coming. They haven't been produced yet, but I ordered them. Yeah, I got like a baseball with the, the gold baseball, the rolling ball. So I thought that was cool. I got pretty much like all the shirts, the World Series ones and the LCS ones with the caps and the programs, and they came out with coins too. I think Highland Mint came out with the coins I got, and things like that. Pretty much if they made it, if it was historically related, I try to get it, right? And obviously throughout this entire postseason, everything was pretty much historic. So it was kind of like being on overload. But yeah, I picked up a lot of stuff.
Can you tell our audience? Go ahead. Sorry.
No. I was just saying, I just picked up a lot of things that pretty much had anything to do with, any records or anything like that was, historic throughout the playoff run. So, like I said, some of the stuff I ordered is not in yet, but some of the stuff I have here, and I just kind of, it's laid out over there that I think I did a TikTok on it a couple weeks ago, just to kind of go through, just the highlights of the, the different things that I got. But my collection, is, it's grown pretty significantly over the last couple of years. I've got, over 13,000 items.
Wow.
Since I started collecting back when I was about 5-6 years old. Started with the Blue Jays fire safety cards that you got when you're on field trips at the fire station, and kind of snowballed from there to pretty much anything. And I've really just narrowed down my collection though, just to, like I said, like historic moments. So like anything that's record breaking, or like, a monumental game that something cool happened, like, the 28-5 game against the Red Sox, or, Davis Schneider's first, home run, his first at bat. And, or like even, deep cuts of something obscure that you've never seen before, like the Danny Jansen, playing on two different teams in the same game, things like that. So that's what I like. And I try to, the biggest kind of parts of my collection are kind of related to, like tickets to those games. I try to collect a lot of tickets related to those historic games, or I have a pretty significant collection of autographed Blue Jays baseballs that are heavily inscribed by the players, kind of like telling the story in their own words on the baseball of like the historic moments, right? So an example would be, like the first triple play in Blue Jays history of all the guys that were involved in play on both teams. And, I have it inscribed, first triple play Blue Jays history and then the date, so stuff like that. I really like to I'm very specific in my taste. So I try to get as many things as I can, with as many details as I possibly can. Like even too, like I'm a really big fan of, the beginning of the club, when they were first, all the way from, the expansion draft in 76 to when they formed the first team of the original Blue Jays. And I have, I'm just looking at them right now. I have a one ball sign of each of the original Blue Jays, all with the inscription original Blue Jays, other than obviously rest in peace, Doug Alt and Jesse Jefferson, right? Because, they had passed, a few years ago, but outside of that, it's a pretty unique collection. I would love, like obviously I live up north, so the biggest thing is that I'd love more people to see it. I live in more of a hockey town, so people don't really appreciate baseball, let alone the Blue Jays, as much. But it's always been my passion, and it's what I love, and it's interesting to me. And every time I get something, I catalog it in my spreadsheet, and it's and I just try to fill the holes whenever I can with something that I need or something that I find that is really cool, or it's just very, like rare or something, so I don't know. It's just something I've always enjoyed.
I'm going to play a little video from your TikTok page. It's about 2 minutes long. And
yeah.
I know you have a lot of the original Blue Jays broadcasters autographs.
Oh,
did you ever get Fergie Oliver's autograph? Yeah,
funny story, actually. I have an autograph of him with Tony Kubek and Don Chevrier. It's a photo of all three of them signed it, but I wanted him on a baseball because I loved his catchphrase, "How about those Toronto Blue Jays?" Right, and you could remember that when they won the ALC or the pennant back in '85, the East, and that's he called the game, and he called that moment when Bell caught the ball and high-fived Fernandez. And I remember his daughter works for or at least she worked for the home shopping network or something like that.
Catherine.
I remember, so I reached out to her, and I think on Instagram, and she didn't respond right away. And I don't think she checks her messages that often, but when she did, she was nice enough to get back to me, and she told me to send it to her. And so I sent it to her, and she got, for her dad to sign it for me. And he signed it with the inscription, "How about those Blue Jays?" So I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah.
Paul, we're going to play this little video clip and your TikTok page. People can follow you on TikTok at Blue Jays History, right? On TikTok.
Yeah.
Okay. It's just a 2-minute clip of some of the items you have. Just give me 1 second and we'll play it right now. Just going to try to find it. 1 second. It's technical issue here. 1 second. I think I have it right here. Just you got a lot of videos of content on here too. So
yeah, there's a lot of.
We're gonna play it right now. Let me know if you can hear it, Paul.
Well, Blue Jays
I can hear
fans, I just wanted to get this in before I get down to Game 6 tomorrow night. There's just some swag that I've purchased for the last little bit. The Blue Jays being in the playoffs, I pretty much focus. If you're not familiar with my videos, I pretty much focus on historic moments, and man, there have been a lot of them over the last little bit. So I'll just show you. I got pretty much the on-field caps that they wore every time they won. When they got into the playoffs, and then when they won the division, and when they won the ALCS, and they got the World Series. I got all the programs as well. Based on a few visits to the Rogers Center over the last little bit, I got the postseason popcorn bucket and the souvenir drink cups. I got the white panel and the blue variations. One's the World Series patch. The other one was the postseason 2025. I got the ALCS shirt. Got pretty much most of the little lapel pins. I'm still waiting for my ones to come in for the World Series. The postseason baseballs. I got this World Series scarf and the I Want It All towels, in which there's two variations. There's one without the World Series logo, and then there's one with it. And the different hoodies and shirts. I got the World Series jersey here, the division hoodie. I got the October one upstairs because I was wearing it. American League Champs shirt. I like this one here. Starts spreading the news, bitches. That one's from Breaking Tea. They did that one up. And because I'm a little bit nuts, I saved the tissue paper under the sausage that I purchased at the Road Center that was horribly overpriced, but it was very, very well made. It was a jalapeno cheddar hot dog with the Doritos on top of it. I recommend it very highly. And also, too, forgot the Tim Hortons cups that they came out with as well. I'm sure I'll pick up some more stuff, but that's it for now. Thanks.
Paul, just 1 second.
Yep.
I apologize that Paul. I'm old school. Were you able to get? Sorry about that. Were you able to get paper copies of the ticket stubs? Because I still have ticket stubs from the 70s and 80s and 90s. But were you able to get that for your collection too? Some kind of paper copy of the tickets?
I don't think they were printing any. I heard from somebody that if they did, it was in very small quantities, but I don't think that they did. I know a lot of people that inquired to get some, but all they would do was just direct them, to buy the commemorative one that they were selling at the J Shop. So I never did. Everything was on my phone, which kind of sucks, right? Because, ticket stubs and tickets are, a big part of my collection. It's unfortunate that they don't make them anymore. But yeah, unfortunately I didn't. But that's kind of the name of the game now across Major League Baseball. A lot of the clubs, very few even print anything anymore, right? So
it's sad because it's just the physical copy would be so special to have in your collection.
Well, even too, I noticed, with little things too that, people may not think about, but it was, I look forward to every year, the little pocket schedules, and they don't make those anymore. I think the only time that they do, I think, is in spring training for Dunedin. And if they do give away a schedule, it's the magnet schedule that, at the, after the first game of the year at home. But, stuff like that, I wish they would, bring back, because it brings you back, and it's something cool that you like to even programs. They don't really make as much anymore. Yeah. Is very few and far between. And I remember the last actual program that I got, other than this from the last playoffs, was that when they inducted Bautista for the level of excellence there. I got that one, and that was even hard to kind of get, even though I was there. But because I don't think they printed a lot. So it's something, things like that I wish they'd, bring back. But what are you gonna do?
Pause. We wrap this show up. What is next on your bucket list for unique Blue Jay items?
Well, I'm still after the Doug Alt, single sign baseball, with the inscription, the 2 home runs on opening day, from April 7th, 77. So if anybody has that, please let me know. But and I'm still looking for very obscure things, that I don't even know if they still exist. Their first ticket stub to their first spring training game in Dunedin for March the 11th, 77. So things like that would be cool additions. Don't know if there's many out there, if there is any out there at all. But they'd be certainly, cool to get. But honestly, like I said before, a lot of my sites are kind of set on, the different things that they're going to do for next year for the 50th, and, and the giveaways, and, things that they're going to do with the alumni possibly, and things like that. So that's on my radar, just to see what they're going to come out with. One of my, I hope, one of the ideas that I had, and if you ever watched the Cooper's Towners in Canada, the post from Kevin Glue there. He's the baseball writer. He does a lot of stuff through Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame, and he puts these posts up every so often. And one of them was, what's a promotion that you'd love to see in 2026 for the Blue Jays? And a couple of times I've written, I'm like, I love to see like a Bill Singer or a Doug Alt snow globe, because that first game, right, was played in the snow. And I think that would be an absolutely dynamite collectible to kind of start the year off with. And, things like that. So I hope they come out with quirky things like that, because that's what I love about collecting. It's just the cool, unique stuff. So, but I guess we'll see, right? So,
when I was a kid, I ended up getting a Laura Secord baseball from '78.
Yeah,
I played with it. Played with it, and also I remember having the Blue Jays batting helmet sponsored by Dominion, and I played with those too. And then the Castelli mini bats as well.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll bring back the mini bat days.
Yeah, I know. I got the Castelli mini bat over here, and I got they had so many cool promotions with the different sponsors. It was cool to see. Even the Shoppers Drug Mart calendar,
which I had.
Yeah.
But back then in the 70s and 80s, nobody thought enough to keep them, and I really wish I had not played with them or just kept them in mint condition.
Well, yeah. Well, some of mine that I had, like, I would write down when they were on TV, right? So throughout every month, I'd write down TSN or CTV, right? Because I wanted to know, I wanted to remind myself I didn't want to miss a game, right? And every so often when you get the TV guide, sometimes they would publish the whole TV schedule, and now every game's on. But back then it was only, certain ones. And that's what I look forward to. I look forward to getting that calendar and writing down all the games that I could see. So...
Paul, as we wrap this show up, this segment's called Ask the Host CDP a Question. Do you have a question for me before I wrap things up?
Actually, I was going to ask you with the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame induction that I've seen you the last couple of years. What who do you look forward to seeing the most when you attend those functions there?
Pretty well everybody. Scott Crawford, Lindsay Earl, Hazel May I've run into, Rod Black I've met, Mike Wilner, just people that are generally connected with Canadian baseball, and it's just great being able to talk to them and stuff like that, and meeting Lloyd Moseby for the first time in 45 years. Like I had my picture taken with him in 1980 at Exhibition Stadium as an 8-year-old kid, and I got to talk to Lloyd, and he's like, "Hey, it's you," and I'm like, "Yeah," and Lloyd's like, "Yeah, I don't have any hair," and I said, "Well, Lloyd, I'm not as skinny as I used to be." So I was great to reconnect with Lloyd Moseby 45 years later, and I told him how much he impacted me as a baseball fan back then.
Well, and that's the thing about being there, right? It's such an exclusive, like, it's such a small area, and it's so intimate, and you get to fraternize and talk and have conversations with all of these people and a lot of these people I never thought I'd meet in my life when I was a kid. You know what I mean? And it's
same here.
They're walking up, they're walking around, or they're walking up to me, and they're just having conversation. Even too, like Paul Beast and Don McDougall, like the guys that started the Blue Jays, and just to see them and just to, talk to them for a bit. And it's so cool, and it's so exclusive, and it's like nothing else. And I look forward to that, the induction every year and going, because it's such a different, unique experience, and you get to meet so many nice people, and it's I love it. I love going every year. Yeah. And
I believe this year the class of 2026 will be on Saturday, June 7th, I believe.
Yeah, and usually I think they announce it like at the beginning of February who's actually getting inducted. I always look forward to see who's actually going to get in, which Jays, which Expos, or any, people related to Canadian baseball.
And finally, Paul, what's one fun fact about your Blue Jays memorabilia items, and where can our audience follow you on social media again?
Well, one of the coolest things I have is when I have the full run of like the opening day or opening game tickets. Like way back then on April 7th, 77, they came out with like a dark blue. I'm looking at them right now. They're on my wall. A dark blue, a green, a light blue, a red, a pink, and a brown, or like a brownish gold. And so I have that whole set. They're all mint condition, and they're all like, they're not, stubs or anything. They're full tickets. So I thought that's a pretty unique piece. And I also have, if you remember way back when the Blue Jays first started, they had it on like, you know, when the CNE, all the rides and everything at the exhibition happen every year. It's late summer, early September into Labor Day weekend. When they first got named as a club in '76, they had a Blue Jays almost like welcoming the Blue Jays to Major League Baseball tent set up at the CNE, and there were three guests that were promoting baseball, and they were Joe DiMaggio, Mickey Mantle, and he was the tagger. I can't remember his name for the life of me.
John Haller?
No, he was
from Toronto.
He wasn't Canadian. He was like a well-known tagger, though. Oh, I just had it.
Rusty Kuntz.
He was a commentator for them for a long time too. Al
Kaline, one of the greatest Mr. Tagger.
Yeah, so those three were there promoting baseball
at the CNE.
And obviously, like, I hadn't been born yet, but I have the autographs from. And it says, I met Joe DiMaggio at the CNE 76 with his autograph. So I have the DiMaggio on the mantle, and I still haven't found the K-line. So those are pretty cool pieces in my collection too, because it's so obscure, right? And but I could go on and on. There's so many things that I think are unique and just deep cuts, that not a lot of people would even think about. That obviously I have, and that's why I have it in my collection, right? So, but it's my collection is very, very deep, and it's very unique. And then, yeah, like I said, I love it. I love collecting, and it's always been a passion. But yeah, I'm on TikTok. You could follow me at Baseball History, or at Blue Jays History. And I also had a couple of YouTube videos as well that I shot. I think the last one I shot was in like 2022. I want to say the first one I shot was when I just literally built the I guess you could say museum down here back in like 2015-ish. But if you look up Toronto Blue Jays Man Cave on YouTube, they're like the first two videos, and they're both like 10 minutes each. So those are kind of like the original video of my man cave, and then like an updated one kind of showing you the scope of my collection, which has grown significantly since then. But still, it's, you know, it's still like obviously the same basis of like the historic value and all the different parts of my collection. So if you want to check them out, it's cool.
Do you have any 1970s Blue Jays baseballs from Exhibition Stadium?
Like game used?
Yeah, game used.
Unfortunately, no. I think the earliest one that I have was from the Dave Stieb no-hitter game. I have a game used one from that, but Exhibition Stadium, I would love one. But it's hard to keep track of which ones actually were there, because they didn't have, the system like they do today, right?
Wow.
Like they have the authenticator on site ready to put the, stamp on the ball, and it's cataloged, and you could, scan the code and it goes right to it's totally different, right? So it's, say you see a ball in a flea market, and it, maybe it's like a Bobby Brown, Major League Baseball or something like that. Hard to kind of authenticate as to where it came from and when it was, what game it was ever like that, eh? So, yeah, it's a different time now, but I would, if somebody could prove that it was from, a monumental game or something like that from way back when, I'd love something like that. That'd be so cool.
Because I asked Scott Crawford, and I even asked Paul Godfrey at the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame, who has the first home run in Blue Jays baseball?
The alt, yeah.
Sorry, I know the first ball went to the Canadian Sports Hall of Fame.
That's right.
But the dog home run, it would have been nice if somebody had given that back to the club back then.
Yeah, and you know what? And I think about this often. It makes you wonder if somebody has it and they don't know what it is. You know what I mean? Somebody that just caught it and they gave it to somebody or put it away in a drawer, and somebody, being that this was 50 years ago almost, that they're probably not with us anymore. You never know. Or they're up in age and maybe it just gets lost along the way. So it's things like that you're just like, yeah, I would, that'd be something if you could, track that one down. I have a feeling though that if you spoke to like Howie Starkman or somebody like that, they might know or have a lead on, who might have it, or they might have gotten it back. But as far as I know, I have no idea. Yeah.
Hopefully one day that mystery will turn out.
Yeah, one day, hopefully.
Maybe it'll show up just in time for this year.
You never know.
So, Paul, I want to say thank you so much for giving us over an hour of your time, and
Thank you.
I continue success with your collection. I'm going to have to come up to Northern Ontario one day because I'd like to see your collection, and you could probably spend hours just looking at everything you have.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, man. Anytime. Thanks for having me, for sure.
Well, thanks, Paul. And give me a little bit of time tonight, and I will send you the full video, audio, and I'll have some reels and clips as well. And hey, spring training's not that far away. It's only 2.5, less than 3 months away.
I can't wait.
Any plans for you and the family to go see the Jays in Dunedin in February?
Yeah, you know what? Actually, I had booked to go to spring training last April, I think it was, not knowing that they would go this far this year, and we'd be sad, but knowing that it's the 50th year, that's really why I booked it. And it's their 50th year, obviously, in Dunedin too, with spring training. So I thought I'd like to check that out. So yeah, we're gonna go to a couple games more at the end of spring training. It might overlap a little bit with the World Baseball Classic, but it's that week, I believe. I want to say it's like the March 16th week, I want to say. And there's a couple games out there playing at home that we're going to go check out. So that'll be cool, especially, for the boys too. And we love going down there. We've gone a few times and we love the area. Dunedin's gorgeous, and Clearwater Beach is, you can't beat that. So.
All right. Well, Paul, thank you so much for coming on here today. And I'm already looking for baseball to start up in February as well. And I'm hoping the Tigers will go out and spend some money on getting some more batters, some more bats, and hopefully keep Scudro as well. And hey, like I said, it was a great playoff series, great for the game of baseball, and looking forward to 2026, by the way.
Oh, definitely. Definitely, for sure.
Thank you so much, Paul. Have a good night, and we'll keep in touch with you on social media.
Oh, definitely. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right, everybody. That concludes Season 12, Episode 18, overall 623 of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. Again, brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership, located at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out their website, barrycullen.com, for the newest selection of new pre-owned GM vehicles, along with their great selection of all-electric vehicles and Cadillac vehicles as well. You can call the dealership at 519-824-0210. Tell them Chris Palme sent you, or you can email them at info@barrycullen.com. Again, that was my special guest, Paul Bychko, Toronto Blue Jays fan, and has probably the largest Blue Jays memorabilia collection in North America, going on 14,000 items. So I want to say thank you to Paul for coming on here as well. And as we wrap up this show, guys, the next Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, again, brought to you by barrycullen.com. It's going to take place on Black Friday. Friday, November 28th, Black Friday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, with my special guest, Ashley Stewart. She is an author, a coach, and a content creator as well. So we're going to talk to Ashley a little bit about it being an author, 5-time author, and she's also a speaker and a rising voice in the self-mastery space, teaching women how to break cycles and detach from dysfunction. So I'm looking forward to speaking to Ashley Stewart. I met her through TikTok. So Black Friday, November 28th, 4:30, Ashley Stewart will be on our show as well. And as we wrap up this broadcast, guys, you can follow Paul again on his TikTok page, tiktok.com/@BlueJaysHistory, if you want to follow Paul and see a lot of his collection on TikTok as well. And again, as always, if you're looking to adopt a pet, check out the Cambridge District Humane Society, 1650 Dunbar Road in Cambridge, Ontario. Telephone number 519-623-7722, extension 0, or visit their website, cambridgehumanesociety.org. all the animals and pets up for adoption. Their profiles are on CambridgeHumaneSociety.org. Especially check out Pebbles, who's been there since June 2025. She's a fun-loving dog, and Christopher, who's been there a while as well. So let's hopefully get Pebbles and Christopher homes just before Christmas time as well. And speaking of Christmas, if you're looking for a Christmas gift, stocking stuffer, birthday gift, I am selling 2026 Cambridge District Humane Society calendars for only $10. The proceeds and the money go back into the programs at the Cambridge District Humane Society. And I told them to give me 40 calendars, and my goal is to sell 40 and raise $400. I've already sold 27 calendars and $270. So I have another 13 calendars left. So if you'd like one before Christmas, just email me at cpame19@gmail.com or DM me on my social media pages as well. And as we wrap up this show, everybody, thank you to everyone watching this live stream on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, X, and Instagram. And Live with CDP Sports Entertainment Talk Show is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Good Pods, and wherever podcasts are available as well. And if you're looking for a personalized video message from yours truly, go to cameo.com and type in Chris Pame. Happy birthday, happy anniversary, happy holidays. If you want to talk to me about sports or some of my favorite interviews, go to cameo.com and type in my name, Chris Pame, as well. And that wraps up our show again. I want to say thank you to my guest, Paul, tonight for coming on here. And I want to say thank you to everyone watching this live stream or on my audio platforms. And looking forward to my next show, Friday, November 28th, 4:30 Eastern, with special guest Ashley Stewart, author, a speaker, and a motivator, and a TikTok creator as well. So that is about it for tonight's show. The Pistons winning streak ends. The Boston Celtics upset the Pistons tonight, 117-114. Pistons dropped to 15-3, first loss since October. And the Red Wings right now are playing Nashville as well. So by the way, as we wrap this show up, I want to wish my American family and my American friends a happy U.S. Thanksgiving Day holiday. We had ours here in October here in Canada. So to my family and friends in the States, I wish you a happy Thanksgiving. And we'll see you back here on Friday, November 28th, Black Friday, 4:30 for another edition of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet here in Guelph. Good night, everybody, and we'll see you Friday at 4:30.